Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in, 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA podcast is powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big Three NBA podcast. I'm Kwani Lunis. Sherrod Blakely is here, as well as Gary Washburn. I'm wearing bright pink. I look
we know, Kwani. We know.
For this event, if you're watching. Well, you gotta,
I'm wearing blue.
Some people listen, some people watch on YouTube. So I need to address that I'm overdressed because I was at an event and I didn't feel like changing because the dress needs to get some more wear out of it. So hence why I needed to make sure that people don't think I'm just trying to outshine you guys.
Kwani, that person that she'll put in an outfit for like a 22-minute event and she'll wear it all day.
Right? No, but seriously, because why am I not like? Look at this. You see the shimmer? It even
Kwani
has
rolling up the fast food joints with her. See my shimmer? See my shimmer?
Oh, really? Wait,
I'm getting my money's worth out of this dress.
That was a really good read, to be honest, because that is very accurate.
Facts.
So, appreciate you. Anyway, let's get into the Celtics.
Gary's like, y'all ready?
Yeah, look, another week of Gary questioning why he is a member of the Big Three.
Why?
We need you to keep us stable and sane, I guess. So let's get into
let's move on with the show.
The Celtics, the trade deadline hit us on Thursday at 3:00, and the Celtics made a few moves, nothing too crazy, but we'll just start off the top. We're going to actually just mention the first one off the top because we're not going to really deep dive into it. So the Banton, he was traded to
Portland.
That was Gary's guy.
Right. Portland, yes.
My God. Okay.
Yikes. The Celtics are going to actually receive a top 55 protected 2027 second round pick in exchange for him. And then the Celtics are actually giving up a 2024 second round pick to Philly for that move as well. But the first one that we want to actually start diving into is the fact that the Celtics did acquire, that's probably the biggest one of the three, Xavier Tillman from Memphis. And in exchange, Lamar Stevens, as well as a 2027 and it's so weird saying 2027, a 2030 second round pick. So quickly fill in the lane. Let's start off the top. Blank is what the Celtics should expect from Tillman in this new deal.
Toughness. They got somebody on that bench that there's no questions about their toughness. Now, is he going to get you buckets? Not too many, but he's going to give you a physicality that you absolutely are going to need at some point during the playoffs. You're not going to need him to play every game, but there are going to be some nights where you're going to need someone who's going to step out on that floor and just give you a certain physical, grimy grittiness in that front court. And Tillman, he fits the bill. He is a situational specialist for the Celtics. He's not good enough to be in their regular rotation, certainly not right now, but there are going to be certain matchups where his presence and his value will be counted upon to help them get through that game.
I think the Celtics can expect just versatility. He can guard. He can even shoot the threes. Not very good. He's like 20%.
I was going to say, he can.
He's not, but he has turned himself into a three-point shooter. It's not like he won't take one. He can score at the rim. He's an undersized guy, 6'8", 245, but he plays bigger than his size. And I think he'll provide relief to with Porzingis and Al. I think the Celtics realize, okay, like 38 and 51 games entering the game against Washington, 31 games left. They've gotten as much out of Porzingis. He's maximized. He's done great. He's really, he's exceeded potential. But you also want to keep him healthy. You also want to make sure that he's ready for the playoffs, ready to play every game. And the last 31 games, I think they're going to hopefully for them build enough of a lead for that number one seed to where they don't have to risk it till like the last 10 or 12 games. They can maybe give Porzingis a good break. And I'm saying with Al Horford, because obviously Al's 37. And so I think it's a really good time now because you got games Friday and Sunday, and you got the back-to-back. They'll figure that out against Brooklyn, but then you got a week off. So everybody takes some time off their feet, and then you get back to the grind. But I think Tillman will be a guy who can fill in for Al, fill in for Chris Stapps, and with Luke, I don't know, I think they'll figure out, maybe they play together at times, who knows? I mean, Luke has carved out a niche, he's carved out some minutes. So who knows if they'll play them together, if he'll just take Luke's minutes, if he'll take Keita's minutes. I don't know. I think this kind of means they're not going to keep Keita, off the playoff roster and on a two-way deal. I kind of thought he deserved a little bit more than that, but we'll see what Tillman does. But I think he brings relief because you got an injury-prone guy and a 37-year-old guy as your top two bigs, and that was their primary weakness. You don't want to give Kornet too many minutes, right? He does what he does. You want to put him in, you want to bring him out. So I think this is a guy who's a pro. He's played in big games. He has turned himself into a quality player. He played 4 years at Michigan State. I mean, so he's well coached, obviously, all the way from those days with Tom Izzo. This is a pro's pro, right? And that's what you need. You need a guy in there who's been around. I mean, he's been around a lot of drama in Memphis, a lot of things in Memphis. And now he's probably around a little bit more of a atmosphere that championship is on the mind. And he helped those young guys grow and was part of that growth in Memphis. So I think he comes in, probably, guys put their arm around him. Hey, man, just be good. Just you're good. Just learn the system, play as hard as you can. You'll be fine.
And the one thing he brings to this table, just add this one last point, is he gives them another ball mover in the front court. He's not going to rack up 8, 9, 10 assists, but he's very good at moving the ball to guys and getting it to them in positions where they can either make a play or they can make a move, dribble, drive, move, and find someone else wide open. So they added a guy who doesn't necessarily score, but he can contribute to good ball movement and thus good scoring. In many ways, Gary, you touched on it, his background. He really is, in a lot of ways, kind of like a low-budget Draymond Green. Similar size, plays bigger than he is, can move the ball.
Try. Don't do that. Don't do that.
What? You act like Draymond is not. Listen.
You got Celtics fans talking about, he could be slapping foods and socking teammates. Like, no.
I'm talking about skill.
On the floor, not off the floor.
Gary.
Not getting text.
Everything I'm talking
Sherrod, that's a loaded ass statement.
Everything I'm talking about with him
he like Draymond Green, but he low budget, but he ain't as good as Draymond. Is he gonna be still slapping fools? Like, no.
See, this is why
I'm just saying you can't make that statement.
You totally can make Gary, ball mover, undersized, plays bigger than his actual dimensions are, understands what it's like to be around drama, is a guy that can fit into almost any team you have based upon his skill set. That's what.
Okay.
He's just not. Those are all the things that Draymond has been doing for his entire career. I'm not
talking
about all the stuff.
Draymond without the violence.
Draymond with no drama. How's that? That work for you?
There you go.
Draymond, no drama. He's a no drama Draymond. How's that?
Exactly.
That work for you?
Yes. Can't be talking about. He's low budget. Celtic fans is scared. Oh,
like, no, thank you, baby.
Damn, he's a good player. Practice too. Like, no,
you ain't got to worry about him punching like Peyton Pritchard in the grill.
Right,
he
ain't gonna put Rudy Gobert in the headlock. Like, you gotta be. You need to explain that, Sherrod. You can't just be saying.
Well, I think this instance is a very niche one because Draymond just happens to have a lot of other issues. I think most people understood it meant on the floor.
On the floor.
But now I'm questioning it because you said it.
No one would even question that if it wasn't for Mr. Cal Covey over here.
Not Cal.
My goodness. Keep it moving, Kwani.
At least we're clarified. We're clarified. All right. That being said, you mentioned the things that he brings to the table for this team, scoring obviously one of them. But what are your thoughts on his chances of actually playing a significant role for the Celtics right now?
Go ahead, Gary.
What's the question again?
They need a Draymond.
I got lost with the Draymond thing.
No, it's funny though, because when you said the Draymond thing, the first thing I thought of was like the fact that we've been talking about since Marcus was traded, like they don't have anyone with that grit, that dog, that energy. So
he does have that.
That's what I'm thinking about, Kwani, but that's not what Gary was thinking about, clearly.
So this is what I was thinking. And that being said, do you think this, again, we know no one's going to replace Marcus Smart. Gary did a really good job of explaining why he has cemented himself into Celtics history, but they do still have that gap that needs to be filled when it comes to someone with that grit. So can Xavier potentially...
He can fill that role. He's a tough guy. He's a shit talker. He can back it up with beef. I mean, he's a dude you don't know what these our fathers used to say, you don't want to see that dude in the dark alley.
Look,
right? He's got that.
Smoke,
people, I know young people, well, why would you be in a dark alley? What does that mean?
Alley still exists, Gary. Don't do that.
Okay, I'm just saying, Kwani, because if you say that, people, well, what does that mean? I'm not sure what a dark. Why would that? What does that? Does it mean you're tough?
Did the fluorescent light go out or something?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, as our parents used to say, you don't want to see that dude in the dark alley. Okay. Tillman brings toughness. He brings a level of physicality. That dude's not to be messed with. He walks into a room, because I was telling our young reporter Suicha Terada, who went to Michigan State, was 2 years older than Tillman. Like, could you believe when you saw that dude on campus, that dude was in college? Because Tillman looks older than he is. I mean, he looked like he'd been through some stuff.
He came
into the NBA looking like he was already in the
a 10-year veteran. Yeah, like and Draymond's the same way. So maybe it's a Michigan State thing.
What's in the water?
I don't know what the water is in East Lansing, but but he brings kind of a physicality, a toughness, and I think that the Celtics will let him be that guy and let him lay some hat, because you do need somebody to get in somebody's face. The games are going to get tougher, and the playoffs are going to approach. And now we'll talk about that later. Other teams are ramping up. They're coming at the Celtics, the Knicks. We'll see about the Cavs are the hottest team in the NBA. So there's a lot of teams who are ramping up and ready to push the Celtics physically, because that's the way you're going to have to beat the Celtics, is be physical with them, push them around, frustrate them. Miami's going to be that same way, and Tillman will help that cause, because now you got a tough guy on your side. Because remember, they also lost Grant, and as much as people will talk mess about Grant, who he also got traded today, hopefully he's happy back in Charlotte. We'll see how that goes. Grant was a guy who could get in your face, talk mess, and he didn't back down either. And a lot of people had a problem with that when he went up against Jimmy Butler in Game 2 of these conference finals. I never had a problem with that. I always thought Grant was another tough guy. So you do need a guy who's going to just be like, what'd you say? Or lay some wood in somebody in the paint. Trae Young, no, you're not coming in here with this little stuff. You're getting knocked to the floor. You're getting put down. And that's what they need in Xavier Tillman. That's what I think he brings. I think I've seen him over the years. He just has that tough. He fit Memphis to a T. I'm a little surprised the Grizzlies traded him, and I think they're cleaning house and they're preparing to get a high lottery pick, because now they're terrible and they're injured, to throw in. I just think they saw, okay, let's get a couple of assets for this guy. He doesn't make a lot of money. They traded Steven Adams. So they're ramping up for kind of a rebuild and to add, one of those top level picks, top 2-3 picks maybe, to what they have. But he fit Memphis to a T, and I think that's a good thing for the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect storm for both him, the Celtics, and their quest to be the last team standing. They needed a guy that has not someone who kind of plays the physicality game, but their DNA is all about physicality, and he's that dude. To me, it's crazy to think that this dude is just 25 years old, looking like he's been in the league for 25 years. He's that kind of dude. And I love that. They need that type of player that has that physical presence about them, that when you step on the floor, you don't want any of that smoke from him, because just the way he plays, he could put you out it could be lights out, bye-bye for the night if you want to go there. And I think the Celtics, they need to be a team that has some element of toughness that teams have to at least think about. Because right now, you look at them play, it's like, okay, they got great shooters, they move well without the ball. But if you get up in them and you get physical, you can take them off their game. They really don't have guys that, frankly, are about that life, that physical life. I would say Jaylen Brown is probably the best one who likes to play bully ball. Jaylen, when he sees that he's got a little dude on him or a guy that he thinks he can play bully ball with, Jaylen will go at him more times than not. But other than that, they don't really have guys with that mindset. Tillman gives them that type of physicality on the defensive end, which is where I think they could use a guy in that front court that can bring the wood and not be hesitant to do that. So it's a good, and again, as Gary pointed out, he doesn't make a lot of money, which translates to he's low on your budget. Boom.
Yeah.
There you go. This is a guy that you could conceivably see paying to stay and not have to pay a lot of money to keep him to stay if things work out. And that's, to me, that's one of the, kind of low-key benefits to adding a guy that gives you a very specific need now, doesn't cost a lot of money, and is in a position where if things work out this season, you could potentially keep him in the fold going forward. So win-win-win for everybody. You get a win, you get a win, you get a win.
Thank you, Oprah.
Happy Super Bowl to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Yeah,
Gary, you mentioned Grant Williams. We have another Charlotte/Tennessee connection. Jaden Springer, he was acquired by the Celtics from Philly for a second-round pick, which I don't know if they definitely didn't overlap in Tennessee. I don't know if they know each other. I just thought it was a really cool connection. Yeah, I would imagine, right? Charlotte's not that big. That area of Charlotte shouldn't be that big. But that being said, Jaden Springer, he is now on the Celtics as well. G League Finals MVP last season, 4 points, 1.8 rebounds, 1.1 assists per game that season. Pick and roll, acquiring Springer is for the now or for the future? Pick one. Why are you rolling with it?
Which one you got, Gary?
I think it's for the future. I do think it's a guy that they can invest in. And it's interesting that the 76ers traded, he's 21 years old. I mean,
I believe the children are our future.
Okay, Whitney.
Oh gosh.
Gary. She even got the dress on for it.
A microphone.
She dressed for the song.
Kwani act like it is 1996 Grammys.
And Bobby Brown is right around the corner.
Bobby Brown. I love that girl. Oh my God. What's
That's
wrong?
my woman.
What's wrong with
That's my woman.
What's wrong with y'all? I can't. Anyway.
You were saying, Gary.
Springer is 21 years old. So, I mean, he's a young dude, born in 02, Kwani. So if that doesn't
no, because it's weird. Because my brother was born in 03. Like that's why.
Yeah, if that don't put a little reality in your world, 02. And he was obviously a first, and the Celtics got a first-round pick. And I think what Brad Stevens told me over the last before the season started, when he had picked up Banton, he had picked up Stevens, he said, when you trade your first-round picks like they have, you have to pick up other guys, maybe projects and all that, and try to cultivate them yourself to replace those picks. So basically, he was a first-round pick almost 3 years ago in 21, probably came out a tad bit too early, a lot of these kids, and he hasn't played all that much 2 games in his first year, 16 last year, 30. So he's been really slow to develop. And I don't think that's because of him. I think that's because of the system in Philadelphia and the coaching changes. He just hasn't had a lot of run. And I was told last year, like Doc Rivers just didn't play him. And Doc is not high on young guys. So I think he saw this year as an opportunity to play more, and he played a little bit more, 32 games, 12 minutes a game, 4 points, 21% from 3. So he didn't take a lot of threes, but they need to see what they have in him. And so I think this is definitely for the future. If you're expecting Jaden Springer at 21 years old to come off and play major minutes, that's not going to happen. But I do think he's a guy that they can cultivate. They can fill with the bench on the end of the bench. He might be able to help out here, there. He can fill some minutes. And, they're calling him kind of a wing. He's 6'4", 204. I mean, he's built. I mean, he's a tough guy. He plays good defense. So I think this is a nice little pickup for him. I think this is a chance for Brad to say, listen, Joe, this is a guy in Sam Cassell. And Sam Cassell probably, who coached him last year in Philadelphia, remember the connection there, probably said, man, go get that kid. That kid got some potential. He's only 21, and that's good. I mean, that's a good thing. He's a young rookie. And, that's the one thing about the NBA, and Sherrod knows, and Kwani, some of these kids come in too damn early. They ain't freaking ready. They just ain't. And it takes 3-4 years for the light to turn on for them to become productive NBA players. Jaden Springer probably should not have entered the draft after his freshman year at Tennessee, and he averaged 12 points a game. He should have stayed his ass in school, probably made some more NIL money, and then came out and been. But if they're telling you, and he was, that you're a first-round pick and you're going to get 3 guaranteed years, that speaks volumes to a lot of these guys. They come out. So this is a guy who probably needs more cultivation. I don't know if they're going to send him to the G League. He spent a lot of time in the G League in his first 3 years, but maybe just looking for an opportunity to flourish. In Philadelphia, it probably wasn't going to happen for him. So now the Celtics have a first-round pick on their team, in addition to Peyton Pritchard, in addition to some of the guys they've taken. That's how you got to fill these spots. I remember that stuck with me when Stevens told me that, hey, that's why they went and got Delano Banton, who's now obviously moved on. Maybe they just thought, you know what, we'll take more of a flyer on Springer who can fill a need than Banton, who might be still a ways away. So I think this is definitely for the future, our future. Let them lead the way, Kwani. Give them a sense of pride.
To make it easier.
Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be.
Word.
I decided long ago.
Reverend Gary Washburn in the building now.
I decided long ago never to walk in anybody's shadow. So if I succeed, at least I did what I believe. Go ahead.
I love that.
So now Reverend Washburn is in the building now.
Exactly. Kwani got me on Greatest Love of All.
Sorry, that song is just...
It's infectious.
It is. I'm like, that's my girl. She's from
Find a cure. Find
a
cure.
Now you know.
Anyway, here's the thing about Jaden. I think the plan is to have him be part of the future going forward, but it shouldn't shock anyone if he becomes one of the guys that's in case of an emergency, crack this guy open and get him in the lineup type of guy, particularly when they play Philadelphia. Because remember, Tyrese Maxey is pretty much the guy that Philly is going to be leaning on heavily. And you're bringing in a guy who has been around Maxey all year long. He probably knows Tyrese Maxey better than any scouting report that the Celtics are going to be able to put together. Now, do you begin the game with him? No. But he becomes one of those guys that you rotate into the mix to defend him and try to keep him from having a big game or having a big series if you see them in the playoffs. So I think the plan absolutely is for him to be part of your future, because I think when you look at him physically, he's got the type of tools and dimensions that you could see him in the in a Joe Mazzulla coach system emerging as a really good defender. But he might fast track that because in certain matchups, he might be able to make an impact sooner rather than later. So I like the fact that they didn't really give up much, if anything, to get him. And this is a guy that has tremendous upside. And as Gary pointed out, he's one of the many youngers who missed the NIL train just as it was pulling up the station. Because I'm convinced he's one of those guys that if those options were available to him when he was at Tennessee, he wouldn't have came out. Because he would have looked just like, damn, I'm getting 12 points, but I'm getting like 7 figures for just doing what I do. Or I can go to the NBA and then they bounce me around in the G League maybe, and I don't get no burn. And I could get all the burn right here in college and get paid. That's what I mean. Like people look at Angel Reese when she was talking about how I might be better off staying in college and getting this bank.
Living her life. Like I haven't even spent my amount of money yet.
Yeah. She was speaking some facts. Same thing with Caitlin Clark, who I mean, she again another one who I mean, see her in the commercial with Reggie Miller and with Jimmy Butler and I'm just like, wait a minute,
like yeah. She's good.
So get that check. Not hating on that at all, but you know, with Jaden, he came out too early. Came out way too early. And this is a chance for him to potentially get on track and potentially recoup some of those lost funds that I think he left on the table by coming out early. A lot of these players, they take that short money, which looks great when you come from the neighborhoods that many of them come from, many of us come from. It looks great. But it typically costs you down the road because that short money doesn't become that big money the way it could be, because you've started off at a lesser starting point, and thus it takes you longer to get to the big dollars. So and get opportunities to get the big money. So this for Jaden, this is a perfect situation. You're with a team, an organization that has a track record of developing young players, has a championship caliber mindset. And for him, I mean, you really can't find a better situation for a young guy who wasn't going to be playing much to begin with. So
I have an inside baseball, but inside basketball like follow up. You mentioned Jaden Springer and obviously him being familiar with the Sixers and you know the way that they do things, and obviously Tyrese Maxey, whatever the case may be. And maybe I'm just completely naive and not ever really diving into this, but what is there actually an unspoken or a spoken rule about when you get traded mid-season? You know, what kind of information you give or share with like your new coaches?
Or with your new team? Anything they want. Anything they want.
I don't know. I've thought about this in the past, but I've never actually asked it out loud. Like, there's no like NDA of like, all right, well, you can't talk about Missoula's system and how he work. You know, like I don't know, just random.
Anything. Everything is open, because at that point you are no longer an employee. It's not like if you worked at, let's say, IBM and then you went to work at Google, where you may very well have like an NDA.
Oh, they definitely have.
Yeah. Nah, it ain't that kind of game. Because at the end of the day, with the NBA, you can know everything I'm gonna do. I still could beat you by 30.
And like it's not like football where you have, you know, there's different, you know, right, playbooks and all that. But yeah,
I mean, that's my understanding, that when players get traded, that, you know, if let's say they're playing their former team soon after that, the coaching staff of their new team will ask them, you know, is there anything in this scouting report that we missed? That
what do you know about Joel Embiid?
Yeah, I mean, because you know, that's the one time when snitching is a good thing, right?
Yeah,
Jimmy? You definitely give whatever information you know. So he'll have all of what Philly's doing, I'm sure, and I'm sure the Celtics will appreciate that. And other guys who leave Boston will go to other places and give what they know. So yeah, I think it's fair game. You trade a guy, that's what happens. You might have to change things up.
You trade me, I'm snitching. I'm telling everything.
If you go to a team that's a championship contender, of course I'm snitching. What do you want me to tell you? I got receipts.
Shoe size, favorite gummy bears. Tell me what you want to know. I know it. I got you.
What gum should we put in their locker room to make Embiid upset?
Exactly. What triggers them? I'm gonna tell you the trigger.
And it will be in the arena.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. The Celtics, the most recent game that they played the Clippers, 125-117. Celtics win.
They played the
Porzingis.
Hawks.
Hawks.
All right, what did I just say?
The
You said
Clippers.
I don't know why they say Clippers. What? Don't mind me. I know they played Atlanta. Lauren was in town. I hung out with her.
You know what it is?
AJC.
You saw the words that the Hawks got clipped by the Celtics.
But you know, it's funny because when I read that earlier, I was like, "This very good play on words of you to put clipping the."
Yeah, Hawks got clipped by the Celtics.
My brain decided that they played the Clippers now, so they did not play the Clippers. They played the Atlanta Hawks. Thank you guys for catching that. Porzingis with 31 points. Derek White 21, 12 in the fourth quarter. Al Horford had a good game as well. 14 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Oldest player in the NBA to log those numbers in one game. Al Horford still breaking records, but basically all of that to say, guys not named Tatum having big games. When, I mean, it doesn't necessarily matter against Atlanta, but it still matters when you think about trying to build that momentum into, obviously the All-Star break, but eventually into the offseason. I mean, the postseason. So that being said, can they go deep into the playoffs without players like Tatum and Brown? And do you think this Hawks game, again, low stakes game, prove that, if you do agree?
They can beat the mediocre teams without Tatum and Brown, but when you start getting to best of 7 against Milwaukee, best of 7 if you get to the finals and you see a team like Denver or Oklahoma City or Minnesota, they're going to need Tatum and Brown to really, I think, assert themselves as 2 of the top 3 players every night. The best player on the other team, he may be the best player on that particular game, but Tatum and Brown better be right behind him because that's how you win championships. Your best players shine in the brightest moments. And those 2 guys in particular are going to have opportunities to do that. Now, the guy that I am really looking forward to seeing what he does in the playoffs is Derek White, because I think Derek White has just been he's been the one guy that I don't think gets enough credit for what he means to this team. When you start looking at how they're able to close games out in the fourth quarter, he, more times than not, is the best player. When he's the one that's making, I mean, he made a couple of shots against Atlanta when Atlanta was making things kind of interesting there that I don't think Tatum was in the mood to make those kind of shots last night. And Jaylen Brown, I thought Jaylen wasn't really looking for the ball or very aggressive in the second half. And yet there you got Derek White, hitting fadeaway one-legged, looking like Dirk Nowitzki threes from the corner. Shots that they needed those shots to go down. So the Celtics have the luxury of having guys who are not their go-to guys, not, possession after possession, who can deliver in the clutch. And obviously a different kind of player, but the way that Derek White is able to finish games is we've seen guys who have that particular late game shot clock winding down. You think about guys like Robert Horry, who was never considered a great player, but he was considered a great clutch player. He made the shots that mattered most. Derek White does a lot of that stuff for the Celtics, and it'll be interesting to see how things change in the playoffs when the rotations become a little bit tighter and your best players look to be more aggressive, more assertive offensively. Are they going to forget that Derek White is a big part of why they are really good? Or are they going to just try to be a little bit more monopolizing of the ball and try to get theirs and try to lead the team as scorers as opposed to just leading the teams by their presence, which opens up things for them and for guys like Derek?
Yeah, I thought the win over Atlanta was important because Atlanta scores a lot. Number 3 offense scoring wise in the NBA. They, the Clippers had rolled through Boston, beat up on the Celtics, had won all of their games on this West Coast, East Coast road trip, then went to Atlanta and had to win 149-144. So Atlanta dropped 144 points on them. I think they dropped 140-something or 30-something on the Warriors the game before. This is a team that can score even without DeJounte Murray, who did not play mysteriously, although he was not traded.
I don't understand what's going on either.
That was weird. But
his back was hurting, Gary. His back was hurting.
Yeah, he had a back issue. That's what they say.
And now he's back in Atlanta.
Yeah, now he's back in Atlanta. So if I'm the Celtics, I thought it was a good win because you fought off a team that could score. They didn't need a great Jaylen. I mean, Jason was 2 for 13 from the three-point line. Jason was still trying to get his 3 going. Al was good. Derek was good. Kristaps, outstanding 31 points. So you're fighting through things right now. Like the Celtics are not playing their best basketball, but they're still 13-6 in their last 19. And that includes that tough Indiana loss. But you also include the Lakers loss, the Clippers loss, which were two of the ones that stand out. But you're still winning, and you're still keeping the advantage in the Eastern Conference race. So I just think this is helping them work through things in terms of what they need to work on and what they need to do to be a better club. Because it's not, defense. The defense has been slipping. They played very good defense in the second half. Trae Young was kind of a mess in the second half. He didn't have his. I think he had finished with 20 points. I mean, that's low for him. Its average is 27. So I thought it was a quality win. It's a team that, nobody wants to play Atlanta 7 games. Nobody wants to play that offense and have Trae potentially go for 50. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be run up in Bogdanovich. You don't want those guys because they don't defend. We all know that. They don't defend. Their defense was terrible last night. The Celtics, here I say it, the Celtics should have taken more twos and not enough and took too many damn threes because.
What did you say, Gary?
Yeah, because they dominate the paint. Kristaps was feasting in the paint. They have no rim protectors because the Hawks didn't have Clint Capella. So I thought it was a quality win, a way for them to just take another step forward. Now you use these last 4 games. You try to go 4-0, get to the break, work your butt off in the next few days. Whatever you're doing, make sure you're sharp. And then get to the All-Star break, and you won't be yawning like Kwani just did.
I really thought I was slick too. It did not work.
Yeah, you thought you were slick.
Whew. Anyway, we're gonna pretend like that did not happen.
What's wrong with people?
Splash water. Anyway, finally, we've talked about the trade deadline. We've talked about how they've looked over the last few games. So all of this being said, do you two think that the Celtics have addressed all the pressing needs that they have right now via the trades?
I do. I think that the biggest things they needed to pick up for the trade deadline, I thought they needed another big who could be, not necessarily a starter, but just a guy that could actually play big, literally could play like a big and had a certain amount of versatility and potential impact to the game. And I thought they got that in Tillman. And I ideally would have liked to seen a little bit more of an impact wing that they picked up, but you can't have everything. And to be candid with you, the wings that they already have right now in the fold are pretty damn good. You've got a couple of all NBA first, second team type guys with Jalen and Jason. Sam Hauser is, a guy that can knock down shots, which is what you're going to need from him. And we'll see what Jaden can do. I don't anticipate much from Jaden, to be candid with you, but I can absolutely envision certain scenarios and certain matchups where a player with his particular skills can absolutely help them. So I think they did about as well as you could do. If I had to grade them, I'd say it was an A- as far as what they were able to get in leading up to the trade deadline and what the possibilities were and what they had to give up to get those guys, which if you look at it, they didn't touch their top 9-10 players in terms of who they, passed on or they had to give up to make this roster what it looks like. And that's impressive.
Yeah, I thought I'd give them a B. I mean, and not because any of the guys that they acquired were not good. It's just they didn't get that real oh man, they got that guy. Oh, that completely puts them over the top. But it wasn't that type of trade deadline. As you can see, there was not a lot of big names that, Bojan Bogdanovich from Detroit and Alec Burks. The Knicks made some real good moves. There wasn't a big sexy name. DeJounte Murray didn't get traded. It wasn't the Warriors did nothing. The Lakers didn't. It was not the eventful trade deadline we thought was going to happen. I think obviously there's all these names and all these They get discussed over the net, oh, this guy's gone. This guy, Bruce Brown, didn't get traded. Like that's the one thing about all this talk. 90% of the talk is just talk. It does not happen, right? Everybody talk, what are the Lakers going to do? Who are they going to, they're going to get DeJounte Murray for D'Angelo Russell. And what are the Hawks going to do? The Hawks didn't really do much. The Raptors traded Dennis Schroeder.
They got your boy Kelly. They got my boy Kelly back.
Got Kelly, yeah, exactly. Got Kelly Olynyk into Toronto. So to me, I thought they did well. I thought it was one of those trade deadlines where, it wasn't a lot of action, and you need little pieces. You need a guy to come off your bench. You need maybe a developmental player like a Jaden Springer, right? You're not. And remember, folks, it's the buyout market's coming up too. And the Celtics can sign somebody, add somebody who's made $12 million, $0.4 million or less. Like people they can go after Kyle Lowry. I'm not saying they would. Or, some of these guys that we signed, big money guys that are going to be bought out. No, they can't, because they're in the second apron. So they have to take a guy who doesn't make a whole lot of money. So if you're the Celtics, it still will have some opportunities to add another player, and move forward, as opposed to just sticking with what they have. But I do think that they did a nice job getting a big in Tillman, and also a developmental player who might be able to make an impact in Jaden Springer.
Well, it sounds like passing grades to me. That's, I think, the goal in general. So moving forward, the Celtics have the Wizards and the Heat, the Nets, and then by the time we talk next week, they actually have played the Nets twice. So all of this is still to be determined whether or not these moves were the best, assuming that we actually see these players, contribute. But I think that's all we have for this recap of the trade deadline, our trade deadline special. Any final words from the two of you?
No, Whitney, we good.
Funny that he's wearing a Stevie Wonder shirt. Gary's wearing a Stevie Wonder shirt.
Exactly. I just saw the We Are the World documentary on Netflix.
How was it?
Check it out. Very good. Some interesting notes. It was funny. A lot of good stuff. Especially, I know, Kwani, that was way before your time, but check it out. Not be funny, but it was 85.
Say it, we're like eye roll. 85.
It was 85. So check it out. It's definitely worth watching. It's just interesting how the world's changed since then, but all the stars that they got together and you could probably play the game, and we did okay, could they do that now? Could they pull out?
Never happening.
Could they get all these people, the Taylor Swifts and Nicki Minaj, beyond all in the same room for for 8.
And Jay-Z aren't even going to the Grammys after this one.
Yeah, 8, 9. Could they get them in 8 to 9 hours to do a free song for helping people around the world? Could they do that? Who would they get? Like, who would be the top 30 artists or 30? I think that's just, it's fascinating now, and it's before rap. So you obviously probably have to include Drake and all. You'd have to include some big time rappers in there too, maybe. But could that happen now? Because now that's pushing 39 years ago. So it's a fascinating watch. So yeah.
To answer the question that you didn't ask me specifically, I just don't think.
You don't think they could get all those people in one room for a cause?
I feel like even if World War III, we're on the brink of.
Yeah, they'd be like, no. People be like, no, I'm good.
Thanks for the invite. I'm good.
But to your point, it would have to. I think it would depend on who is the person that's bringing them in.
Yeah, who is it? Yeah, because in this situation, Lionel Richie, who was like it for the equivalent now, Lionel Richie is, I don't even know, like maybe John Legend. Or something like that,
That's still stretched. Yeah,
maybe Bruno Mars, maybe.
Yeah, Bruno Mars. It was exactly. He was at the top of the game in '85. So it would be like Bruno Mars bringing all these people together, and the top producer right now. Then it was Quincy Jones. Now it'd be somebody else, and then Michael Jackson obviously was involved. Michael was all in, so he was the top dude on the earth
Who's the Michael Jackson of our time, if we have one? But like I'd say our time. Obviously, we experienced him, but
Closest thing is Drake. When you talk
Drake or
about
Bruno. I would say Bruno Mars maybe.
yeah, Bruno's probably
There's no, but
Drake
there's
don't dance. Drake
there
don't
is
dance.
no like I don't
not,
know.
But we talk international pool. You think Bruno has that much weight?
I don't
across the
know
world?
because I just don't think you can compare anybody like
Taylor Swift would be the one.
Michael Jackson in 1985 was the like it's you can't even quantify how hot he was. You could not put it on paper. You couldn't even quantify how he could not go anywhere. He could not. I mean, he was the hottest MF on the earth.
And the thing is, this was before.
Like,
I was just having this conversation last week before social media. Like the fact that he had this much of an impact, and Beyonce had done a great job at obviously utilizing social media to still have a not as significant, but significant enough impact, of course, to Taylor Swift as well. But like, literally, no one I think will ever hit. I don't think no one will ever do what Michael Jackson.
He had people fainting where he's going and all that.
Like, just by seeing him, like
just by seeing him. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. People don't understand. People don't understand like how that was when it was him and Prince both at the same time, but they're both with their superpowers. Like it was insane. Like that whole time was insane. You couldn't match it because the 90s, both of them tailed off, weren't the same. And obviously Mike got his stuff and Prince started to, I'm the artist and I'm the symbol. And Prince started having his problems with the record company. But that time, you couldn't, So yeah, like I don't know. I think young folks should like that'd be a great debate and like who would you all get and who would show up and who would have, who would you invite? Who would you not invite?
I would not invite Erykah Badu.
Lauryn Hill will be late. So
Lauryn Hill and Erykah Badu will be late.
Kanye would show up on one. So
Kanye would pull up uninvited and grab the mic.
Like, what's up? Y'all invite me. So yeah.
That's a really good one. If you're watching on YouTube, drop in the comments.
Who would you invite and who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who would be the organizer? That'd be the first.
That's a big question.
Who would be the person that could walk into all these rooms or all these people with respect and be like, and the person be like, I'll do it.
It has to be Taylor Swift, though.
It has to be Beyonce or Taylor Swift. When you think about global impact, it has to be
Taylor. I would probably lean on.
You have to have somebody who's got enough game to talk to all these different people, and people like them, and no ego. Like they put a sign up, no ego at the door. That was a big one.
They had that on.
Leave your ego at the door.
That's real.
You get all this star power in one room. You're gonna have people. What's up? Where's my?
Yeah, that's a lot of I'm all that in one space.
Wait, you said this was like the 80s. So was Mariah Carey involved in this?
No, she didn't come out till 91. Her first was Vision of Love was like 91. So no.
I feel like Mariah still has an impact that she would be.
Yeah, Mariah, she could be the old head like they had back then. They had Dionne Warwick, who made more famous with doing the psychic network and all that.
Yeah. But now she's still doing her thing on Twitter.
She's a
Dionne was a force. Ray Charles, Harry Belafonte, like they got some old heads. Like it was like them getting, like I won't say maybe Stevie Wonder, like who's like a kind of an old Mariah would be kind of an old head in that room now. I mean, they got some people that were like real, like my goodness, I can't believe they got Bob Dylan, who's still alive. Yeah. Bruce Springsteen, like they pulled. So yeah, you'd have to, if young folks have that debate, who would go, who would come, who should be the organizer, and would it even happen?
If there was a need to make a global song for charity, who would be part of that? And who put it together?
Who would put it together?
I will be tweeting that if you are, or posting that on X. If you are on Twitter or X, reply. I want to see your.
And check out the special one to get some reference. Check it out. It's like an hour and a half, so you'll be fine.
I appreciate that. I love getting a little wisdom from Gary Washburn, his historical knowledge.
Yeah.
So perfect way to end out this episode. We appreciate you all watching and listening to the Big Three NBA podcast. We're right before the All-Star stretch. There won't be a break for us, but the break for the players. But we appreciate y'all for listening and sticking with us. We'll be back next week, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.